Previously on the Batman Dark Tomorrow review. I hate this game. I hate it so much. Better not waste any more time. Let's get cracking. After you take down Scarface and Black Mask, the game pulls a complete 180 and the story completely changes. Commissioner Gordon goes missing, and Batman discovers that the Joker is behind it. Batman has to make his way through the sewers and infiltrate Arkham Asylum to rescue Commissioner Gordon. Never mind how Batman knows that the Joker took Gordon to the asylum, he just inexplicably knows that. Nothing happens story-wise through the next few hours of the game. You just go through some sewers and then you go through Arkham Asylum until you find the Joker. And if you think that sounds cool, like some kind of precursor to the Arkham games, believe me, it's not. What confuses me about the sewer portion of the game is that a map of Gotham's sewer system is added to the game's pause menu, but this map is completely useless because it doesn't show you where you are, and it doesn't show you where your goal is, and it stays there through the rest of the game, even after you're done with the sewer level. Not that it matters anyway, because even though the sewer looks like it's a giant maze with tons of paths, all of the paths through the maze are blocked off so that you've only got one direction that you can go at any given time. After an hour or so of blundering through the sewer, you run into the Ratcatcher, an obscure Batman villain that has absolutely nothing to do with the game. You run into him from out of nowhere, you fight him, and he's never mentioned again. Then you go to Arkham Asylum, you run into Killer Croc from out of nowhere, you fight him, and he's never mentioned again. Yeah, Dark Tomorrow has 9 villains in it. 5 of them are cameos. I hate to be a broken record about how good Arkham Asylum is, but this is going to prove a point. Batman Arkham Asylum has 5 villains. The Joker is the main villain, Scarecrow is fought continuously throughout the game, Bane is a critical plot device, Croc is hyped up throughout the entire game, and you're pretty much told you're going to fight Poison Ivy over 2 hours before you go fight her. In a good Batman story, all of the villains are either integral to the plot, or they have some kind of presence in the story. There's development, there's build-up to a climactic showdown. In Dark Tomorrow, most of the villains in the game are cameos that have zero impact on the story. You're walking through Arkham Asylum, you just happen to run into Poison Ivy, you beat her up and she's never mentioned again. A little while later, you just happen to run into Mr. Freeze, you beat him up and he's never mentioned again. The bulk of the game's villains have absolutely nothing to do with the game's story. It feels like the story was just slapped together. I don't know, it's like you can see the skid marks from where they had to rush to get the game done. Like the sewer, it was obviously intended for the sewer to be a maze, but instead it's a completely linear level, and the game's level design is very repetitive overall. Pretty much every area of Arkham Asylum, with the exception of Mr. Freeze's cell, looks exactly the same. Gray bricks, gray bricks. Every single texture in this part of the game is gray brick. The scenery is repetitive and the combat requires zero effort. Playing through the Arkham Asylum portion of the game was so damn boring. You just walk through an endless series of gray brick hallways and you mash a few buttons whenever enemies pop up, and this is where you spend a third of the game. I guess now would be a good time to talk about the game's stealth, or should I say the lack thereof. You'll have the option of sneaking up on enemies to take them down rather than taking them in head-on fights. The problem is that you can only sneak up on enemies if you're stealth walking, and there's one major problem with that. Look at this. Batman walks so damn slow when he does a stealth walk, and enemies that walk at a leisurely stroll can outrun you when you're doing this. It is physically impossible to sneak up on an enemy that is not standing still. Even if you do try to sneak up on enemies, the fixed camera means that you could never see the enemies that you're trying to sneak up on. You can't tell if you're looking in their general direction or not. You know, if you're going to include into your game a mechanic where the player has to sneak up on enemies, maybe you shouldn't have programmed the game with fixed cameras that keep you from being able to see the enemies that you're sneaking up on. Your only indication of whether an enemy is looking in your direction is the mini-map in the corner of the screen, and even that isn't reliable for planning stealth because enemies can still detect you if you're out of sight. Plus, most of the enemies that you encounter travel in packs so that enemies are looking in all directions at once, making it impossible to sneak up on people no matter how careful or patient you are. Just trust me, there is no such thing as stealth in this game. Not that you even need to use stealth because the game's combat is so easily exploited. I think that I stealth attacked a grand total of 5 people throughout the entire game. So yeah, while you're wandering through the sewers and the asylum, you have completely out of nowhere boss fights with Ratcatcher, Killer Croc, Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, and Victor Zsasz. And you'd think these boss fights would be pretty cool, right? Yeah, check out this epic boss fight with Killer Croc. Boss fights in this game are weird as hell. Pretty much any attack that a boss launches will knock Batman right on his ass, and if this happens to you, the game cuts away to show an animation of Batman falling on his ass, just to drive home how much you suck. I eventually figured out a foolproof plan to take down all of the bosses. Just run up to the enemy, do a running kick to knock the bad guy right on his ass, and then run away. I am dead serious. Every villain in the game can be beaten with the strategy of run up, boot to the head, and run away. Do that over and over and over again, and the boss won't stand a chance. Even the boss fights against superpowered villains are uninteresting and require zero effort. Hell, you'll often be able to stun lock the boss and make the fight even easier than normal. Wow. No effort went into designing these boss fights. Well, now that I've beaten Killer Croc, I can use this key to open the door to a cell and rescue a doctor. Huh. Batman won't open the door on his own, and the key is not in my list of gadgets. Well, poop, how do I open the door? Oh, you have a separate inventory for the random crap that you pick up. I might have known that if this game had some kind of, I don't know, tutorial. As you go through the game, you find little pieces of paper sitting around that you can pick up and add to a second inventory, which I'll admit, that's a pretty clever thing to add to a Batman game, searching environments to locate clues just like a detective would. You know what would make it even better? If any of the clues were relevant to the game. Most of the documents that you can find just tell you meaningless background information that has nothing to do with anything. And coming from a guy who devotedly seeks out and reads the lore entries in Metroid Prime, when I tell you these documents are pointless, they're completely pointless. I only found one item that actually has something to do with the game. You can find an email that gives you a hint on how to make the Killer Croc fight even easier. Apart from that, none of the items that you can find have anything to do with anything. It's even hard to pick up items that you find because the game only reads context-sensitive commands when it feels like it. If you want Batman to pick up an item or open a door, you have to tell him about 4 or 5 times before he actually does it. You see this piece of paper right here? I'm trying to pick it up, but I can't, so either it's part of the scenery or Batman does not understand that I want him to pick up the sheet of paper that's right in front of his face. And by the way, if I'm not using the night vision goggles, I can't even see this sheet of paper because there aren't any in-game cameras that let you look at this desk.
Hello, darling. So glad you could make it.
Oh dear God, please tell me that's not the voice of the Joker.
What? You don't think I could have pulled all this off? Kidnapping Commissioner Gordon?
Say, Mark Hamill, what do you think of this voice acting performance?
A disgrace to the name Joker. Killjoy.
So after you beat up the Joker's henchmen, you finally learn the identity of the mastermind behind this whole plot. It's Ra's al Ghul. He's the one who orchestrated the gang war and arranged Commissioner Gordon's kidnapping. It was all part of his master plan to stall Batman while he puts the finishing touches on his master plan. Ra's arranged the kidnapping and the gang war just to keep Batman distracted while he prepared his actual for-realsies plan. So let me see if I've got this right now. The first 2/3 of this game, as far as the story goes, were filler. Ra's al Ghul didn't have any grand plan involving the gang war or Gordon's abduction. He was just trying to distract Batman from his real plan. Okay, riddle me this. Ra's al Ghul's super secret base is located in the Himalayas. Batman mostly only operates in Gotham City. If Ra's al Ghul hadn't orchestrated these events to keep Batman away from his master plan, how would Batman have even found out that Ra's al Ghul had a master plan? This is skipping ahead a little bit, but we eventually find out that Ra's al Ghul's master plan is to blow up some bombs and flood the planet. How would Batman have ever pieced together that plan if Ra's had just left him alone? Batman is the world's greatest detective, sure, but he's not psychic. If Ra's had just sat on his ass and chilled out at home, Batman would never have known that he was up to something until it was too late. Ra's al Ghul, you are stupid! And yeah, you could argue that Ra's wanted Batman to find out about his plan so that he could offer Batman the chance to be his heir. I've got 2 words to respond to that. Phone call. Ra's is hundreds of years old and he doesn't know how to use a phone? Just call up Batman and say, hey, I just met you and this is crazy, but I'ma flood the planet, so join me maybe. And if he says no, you flood the planet before he has the chance to stop you. Now I feel bad about bitching about Batman Vengeance's story because that game's story may have been bland and unmemorable, but at least it made sense! And here's what should scare you. When this game came out, its story was the only thing about it that was praised. Okay, I know that people had to find something to praise about this game and the story is what's least offensive, but this story is awful. You spend the first third of the game stopping a gang war, the second third of the game infiltrating Arkham Asylum, and the last third of the game infiltrating Ra's al Ghul's castle. Not only do these three chunks of the story have nothing in common with one another, but the entire story is built around a plot hole. I'm sorry, but the game's story, much like the rest of it, is crap. Anyway, the next part of the game has you hang gliding to Ra's al Ghul's castle. Looks like a decent little minigame. Okay, if you try to go too high, you die. Makes sense. What in the hell did I just hit? Are you kidding me? That was going too high? Crap, I didn't even see that until I flew upwards and I was too late to dodge. Oh, finally, I'm almost through it. I can see a guard up ahead. I'm almost to the end. What? What just killed me? I didn't hit anything. How the hell did I just die? Stop doing that! Why are you doing this? Nothing is worth this torture. You already have enough material to complete your review. Why do you insist on prolonging your punishment? I'll tell you why. Because I love Batman. Yeah, it sucks, but I have to keep going. I have to see what happens. I've invested too much time in this game to let it beat me now. Then how about I finish this level for you while you take a break? You might as well enjoy the rest of your conquest. Are you sure? You have no idea how bad this thing is. I have difficulty believing the controls are as bad as you say they are. Fine, you think you can do better? Here, good luck, little buddy. I have to calm down, I have to take a break. Just relax. I don't know what to say. I have nothing to say to that. Camco, did this seriously sound like a good idea? I mean, did you not have testers that told you that this level sucked? Did nobody tell you, hey, this hang gliding section part kind of stinks, maybe we should take it out? What the hell were you thinking? Between sluggish controls, updrafts that kill you out of nowhere, and obstacles that you either can't or can barely see, it took me something like 50 tries to get past this gliding section. I'm not even kidding. And get this, in the cutscene immediately before this level, Batman is flying towards Ra's al Ghul's castle in the Batwing, and he jumps out of the Batwing to do this gliding crap. Batman jumped out of a perfectly good airplane to do this. There is no reason why I have to do this gliding shit. And get this, a little later, Ra's al Ghul's henchmen find the crashed glider, and that's what alerts the entire base to Batman's presence. So yeah, Batman, you are stupid! Ra's al Ghul's castle is exactly like the last two parts of the game. Linear level, terrible combat, awful camera, the same old terrible gameplay that's been present through the rest of the game. I will say that I kind of like how there are a few points on the map where you have the option of going one of two directions and you have the chance to explore a little bit, but that's the closest thing to positive that I can say about this entire game. At the end of the game, you fight two elite soldiers, which is easy as crap. Then you fight a large man named Ubu, which is easy as crap because you can use the same basic hit-and-run tactic that you use throughout the entire game. The only problem is that the camera keeps shifting so that I can't see the damn boss. Look at this pandemonium. Batman keeps spazzing out because the camera keeps swiveling 180 degrees. Part of me wonders if I didn't do a good enough job explaining how much the camera pisses you off when you play this game. I think I can put those concerns to rest. Look at this! I have to guess where the boss is because I can never see him! Then you find out what Ra's al Ghul's master plan is. He's going to detonate bombs at the polar ice caps, which will flood a lot of the planet, kill a third of the Earth's population, wipe out cities to eliminate pollution, end mankind's self-destructive reign over the planet. Did I mention that a Final Fantasy writer wrote and directed this game? Although I will give them props for giving the villain a motivation other than I'm emo and life is pain, or I'ma destroy the planet because I can. So you fight Ra's al Ghul using the exact same basic hit-and-run tactic that has defeated every other boss in the game. Ra's is actually less difficult to kill than his right-hand man was. There can be only one, you immortal fuck! And after you defeat Ra's al Ghul, he detonates the bombs and kills a third of the population. What? I beat Ra's al Ghul! I beat the game! Why did I get a bad ending? Did I not get a high enough completion or something? Hold on, I'll look it up online. There has to be something I missed. Are you kidding me? Get this. This game has 4 endings. One of them is good. To get the good ending, you have to defeat Ra's al Ghul, and before you fight Ra's al Ghul, you have to find and disarm a signal device. There's just one problem. The game does not tell you about the signal device! You are given no direction that this is what you're supposed to do to get the good ending. Now I know what you're thinking. Come on, Jado. The game's developers would have to be retarded monkeys to not tell you how to get the actual ending. Maybe the game tells you in one of those clues that you dismissed as being completely useless. Wrong! I didn't track down all of the game's clues, but I looked up a walkthrough written by somebody who did. None of the items or clues that you can find tell you that this is what you're supposed to do. Unless you go exploring around the last area of the game and you stumble onto the signal device on accident, and you have no way of knowing that this room has a signal device in it, you have no way of figuring this out. And get this is how confusing this game is. Even if you find the signal device, you have to disarm the device using the universal tool, a gadget that, up to now, you've only ever used as a lockpick. And the game doesn't tell you that this is what you're supposed to do. You have absolutely no way of figuring this out unless you look it up online. This game gives you no directions on how to get the real ending. This game ends by giving one of the biggest middle fingers to its player that I've ever seen. Well, you know what? Screw you too, you piece of shit. I just don't get it. Superman 64 was bad because it was shot out by a tiny development team with orders no more complex than to make a cheap product that would make easy money. Batman Dark Tomorrow was a major AAA title. How does a game with this much money and production value behind it make so many mistakes? Everything that this game sets out to do, it fails at. The combat is both broken and easily exploited to the point of non-effort. The stealth, What stealth? They tried to incorporate detective work into the game, but that fails. The story is absolute crap, and the game's awkward cameras and sluggish controls make the game an absolutely miserable experience doing every single second of gameplay. There is nothing redeemable about this game outside of its cinematics and visuals, but you know what? Die 20 times on the rooftop section and 50 times on that glider section, then come back and tell me that this game deserves an 8 out of 10 score because it's pretty to look at. I think that Superman 64 is technically a worse game, but as far as pissing me the hell off, Batman Dark Tomorrow brings home the gold medal. Everything about this game is just so... It's okay, I'll just reattach my own head then. I swear to God, if you use my head to reenact Meet the Medic, I'm going to kill you.